Hey everyone, it's Sean Brown again. Today I'm going to be talking to you about why good report writing matters. We've talked a lot about reports and we will talk more about reports, and so having a piece in here about why writing a good report matters is very important to help give you some context to why we take these so seriously. So without further ado, you are the first responder in most situations. That means any report you put in is likely going to have the information from the earliest point possible. So this is helpful for us because it gives us a full picture of what's going on. So many of the reports you put in are either because a student is in crisis or they're violating policy, and we want to make sure we're being the fairest and providing the best assistance possible. So writing that complete report, like taking that complete story, is really important to us. Yours is also the primary narrative, so yours is going to be where we pull the list of facts, actions, violation, concerns, and other issues from. And so making sure that you have a complete and full report is super important here. It helps us to understand the full gravity of what's going on, provide the best follow-up either for students of concern or to hold students who have violated some of our policies accountable in a fair and just way to those students and to others around them. Determining the appropriate follow-up is huge, and good reports help with that. The easier your report is to read and the better written it is, the quicker we're going to be able to get help to that student. So, if you have a student who is struggling with, the death of a family member or being sick, we want to know about that as quickly as possible and understand the full detail and information available to us to help us get that follow-up quicker. It also helps us track ongoing issues. So if we have a student who's been noisy constantly, putting in an incident report every time that's thorough and says, here's exactly what I said to them, here's what they responded back to me, helps us to track those issues so that we can do follow-up more and more, or we can follow up appropriately based on the number of times it comes in. And you don't always know what's going on with these situations, because if you're on rounds for an area other than where you live, you may be documenting a student who's been documented 50 times before that. And you wouldn't know that necessarily because you're not going to be there to document it every time. And so that full and detailed report helps us to kind of put the pieces together for the bigger picture. So you're also representing these students, and so doing that accurately is really important because students can ask to review these, and so using quotes from students helps to put it in their words and to say, this is exactly what you said. This is not what I say. This is what you said, including the facts of the situation, saying, the student had this many bottles of alcohol or this paraphernalia or whatever it may be, helps to just be like, to take your voice out of it as much and make it the facts of the situation. And then who's involved. You always need to include who's involved, because you never want a situation where a witness, for example, who is the one who actually called the situation to the attention of you or to one of your fellow RAs, to be put down as an involved person because you didn't note clearly enough who was involved and who was a witness. It's important to know who can read these, so residents can actually request to review these reports. So you don't want to have your personal bias in here, because if you're sitting being like, oh, this little snot Michael was the one who has been keeping me up for the last 5 nights because of their noise, and a resident reads that, they're not going to be real happy because that's very clearly a bias on your part, and it's not going to look very good for you. And so, keeping it clear, keeping it consistent, and keeping it unbiased is going to be huge if students do choose to read it, because then they can say, okay, yes, that is what happened, and the conversation can go from there, as opposed to, well, the RA obviously doesn't like me. It can also be viewed by higher powers. The president of the university has requested to see reports before for high enough level situations, and other departments can choose to look at these too, depending on the nature of the situation. And so what you say, it does get out there, and people do read these reports because we think they're important, and we want to make sure you're representing yourself the most beneficially you can in case you ever need to work for other people. And it's also meant for your protection. The higher level of accuracy you have, the more it protects you. If you have a really, really vague incident report that basically all we can get in is that you keyed into a room for some reason, that's not going to look very good, because we're going to say, why did you key in there? Was there an emergency, or did you just, violate someone's personal space and use master keys inappropriately? Students can request to see it like I mentioned before, and it'll show that you're not being biased, you don't have an opinion, you're just reporting the facts. It prevents the need for revision or rewriting. If we get a crappy report in, we will ask that RA to rewrite it, because we need quality reports. And these can actually be pulled into court cases if students push it, and we want to make sure that you know, what you say is representative of your side of the story, so that we can avoid pulling you in as much as possible. And the consistency is huge too. You know, we want to make sure we're holding all students accountable in the same way. And so your reports are going to give us the information we need to make sure that incidents are being handled similarly and to make sure that we can follow up appropriately. So that's the basics of why reporting really matters. We do read these, we do see a lot of importance in these, and you're not just spinning your wheels when you write these. These get used by a lot of people to really help the students.